and we are ready to start with the presentation. And it's my pleasure to leave the floor to Ufa, who's going to talk about the BI Norwegian Business School Master's Program. Leave you the floor, Ufa.
Thank you, Frederica. So, just to start by introducing ourselves, I'm Wafa, and this is Sarah. Sarah is currently a student enrolled in the second year in the finance program, as Frederica said, and I work at BI in the marketing and recruitment department. So that's us, and during today's webinar, we're going to tell you a little bit about why you should choose Norway and BI, how it is to study at BI, and what kind of programs we do offer, practical information about the admission process, the housing, and such things, and then we will leave some time for a Q&A where you can ask us questions. First, Sarah's going to tell us a little bit about why you should choose Norway and why she chose Norway.
Yeah, so I hope that it will be useful for all of you. I saw that you are usually more interested in other master programs. Although I am master in finance, I can still contribute with some of my knowledge for other programs as well. So first of all, why Norway? First, amazing nature. I mean, you can probably see the northern lights. Who wouldn't want to live in a country that has fjords and northern lights and polar bears? Then the second reason is that Norway is a European green capital. And I don't know how it is for you guys. I don't think that I've mentioned, but I'm coming from Macedonia, which is a very small country next to Greece. Usually this is the location point for my country, so other people would know. And we're kind of in a moment of stagnation when it comes to being climate oriented, and I'm very happy to be in Norway because I don't know how much you know, but Norway strives very much to go into offshore wind projects, solar projects, and most of the electricity in Norway is generated by hydropower, which I consider to be very cool. Then the third point is public transportation. So we live in Oslo right now, and we have subway, we have buses, we have trams, and it's so easy to go from one point of the city to another point of the city. Then not only Oslo, but also it's very easy to travel within Europe. So you're just like one flight away from Paris, from Madrid, from London, from wherever you want to go in Europe. Then the fifth point would be safety. And when it comes to safety, you would never feel unsafe in Norway. Everywhere where you go, it's amazing. And then the next point is gender equality. Once again, I don't know exactly where you're coming from, but for me, coming from a patriarchal society, and also studying masters in finance, and finance, although we don't want it, but it is a predominantly male-oriented field. And for that reason, for me, it's very important to be living in a country where females are equally important as males, and I believe that Norway scores very high on that. Then is the high employment rate. So we all know, no matter what you want to study, the end point is to get employed, and Norway does have a very high employment rate. And finally, it is the happiest country, one of the happiest countries to live in. You have financial stability, you have great people, you have nature, you have literally everything. So those are the reasons why I personally chose Norway and why I think that it would be good for you as well. Then moving on to another important point, why BI? So I know that a lot of you haven't heard about BI, but what I found the most important about BI is the triple accreditation. So the triple accreditation, it is very important to know that only 1% of the institutions in the world hold this triple accreditation. So what that would mean for you, that would basically mean that wherever you go, your diploma will be recognized. So even if you don't want to stay in Norway, even if you want to go to London, you want to go to Singapore, everywhere this university will be important. The second reason is guaranteed housing. When I was applying for a master's, I was applying to many universities, but some of the universities do let you find housing on your own. What I find extremely important, it is that BI actually takes care that all of the international students are guaranteed housing, so you don't have to stress about that, because we have the team here that makes sure that you will have housing. Then the third reason is that it's international. I think that this is a very important point for me because I feel like it's very important when we have diverse mindsets and when we are coming from diverse backgrounds. So for me, for instance, my best friend is from Venezuela here. I have a lot of people, a lot of friends who are from China, from Vietnam, from Italy, from literally anywhere in the world. Then the fourth reason is that our research department is very top-notch, and why it would be important for you is because at the end of your master's, you write your thesis. And when you write your thesis, the thesis can be a point for you to go and start working somewhere. And you want to have professors who are up to date with all the information, as well as who can help you uh, maybe even publish in some of the top journals. And this is the professors that we have here at BI. They're literally very good at research. Then the other point is that we have customized degree. So you can choose whether you want to do internship, or you want to go for an exchange, or you just want to stay at BI and then continue your studies. The other point is that we have very good relationship with companies. So although you have not heard about BI, everyone in Norway knows about BI. So if you go with your application, with your CV, and you say that you're from BI, it's definitely certain that most of the people would know, everyone would know about BI. So that's very good. And then I think that later on I'm going to talk about the career fairs and other opportunities when it comes to jobs. The employability, like very linked to the relationship with companies, is very high. It's very easy to get a job in Norway and anywhere in Europe, really. And then the student life is amazing, but I'm not going to focus on it right now. I'm going to talk a bit later in the presentation. Yeah.
So I will talk a little bit about the portfolio and the programs that we offer. So the typical Master of Science program in the Nordics, and including Norway, are 2 years full-time. So you take 120 ECTS. The program they're pre-experienced. It means that you don't need to have any work experience. They're based on your bachelor degree. That's what we look at. They're all research-based, as Sarah was explaining, so it means that you would have a thesis that accounts for 30 CTS of the degree, which also qualifies you for a PhD program if you want to do the academic track.
Yeah, and if I may interrupt for a second, for the thesis, you're not alone in that process. Because you usually write the thesis with another person. So you have a partner, so kind of you divide and conquer.
Yeah.
So you're not alone in the process, and I think that that's great.
And we do have an international focus, but also with a Scandinavian perspective. Scandinavians are known for being quite egalitarian. It's very informal, which can be in transition for quite many. And we also have program affiliation with CFA and CIMA.
Yes, and I think that here it's very important to mention that for instance, I'm studying Master in Finance, and right now in this semester I have the CFA Research Challenge, which is basically you find the company, you have to pitch something about the company, and then you have to make it better, and you can go to a national competition, then you can take the exams, and I think that that opens up a lot of doors, at least in the finance world. So I think that that's a very important point for you to know.
Yeah. So the CFA is especially important for students that are studying finance, and CIMA is for the ones that are studying accounting. These are the programs that we offer. They're completely taught in English. So I'm going to go through each program. So this program in Applied Economics, it is a specialized degree. It has a quantitative focus and integrated data science techniques in courses to stimulate economic models and analyze data. So you will develop strong analytical skills and learn a framework for analysis that can be applied to a great variety of areas, ranging from international trade, business cycles, and financial markets to firm competition, market analysis, and strategic behavior. Typical courses, to give an example, are incentive, wages, and labor markets, microeconomics, and there's also data and programming integrated into the program, which are separate courses. The MSc in Business, it is the most flexible and general degree that we offer. It allows for you to major in one field, but you're not supposed to be too much of a specialist. You're supposed to have more of the breadth. It's also the program that has the most flexibility when it comes to, for example, doing an exchange or doing an internship. There are more opportunities, basically because the program has more flexibility in terms of which courses you can take. So it's, but it is a quantitative degree. Even if you, for example, choose to do the major in strategy, which a lot of students that want to go into consultancy end up doing, you would still have some quantitative courses, for example, mathematics and microeconomics. And that's because we see that the job market values students with a quantitative background. It also is a part of the QTEM network, which is a quantitative network of top-notch institutions where you can specialize in finance or economics. It gives you the advantage that if you're supposed to do exchange, you are prioritized when it comes to which courses you can take at the different institutions. So it's a quite exclusive network of institutions. The MSc in Business Analytics, there's so much talk about big data and analytics, so you've probably heard about this type of degree. Our degree is created in a way where you have a foot in both worlds. You learn business, but also data science. So you develop knowledge and skills through close collaboration with the international industry partners. We are, for example, working with, what's it called? It's one of the biggest companies in analytics. It will come to me. We have an affiliation with a huge company in data analytics that also kind of give our students some extra courses and certifications. So typical courses would be decision theory, data management, and econometrics with big data.
Yeah, and I think that for this one it's very important because a lot of my friends also study MSc in Business Analytics. If you're wondering whether you need to have some kind of pre-knowledge before entering into MSc in Business Analytics, you actually don't have to worry about that because BI will prepare you for that. So you will have things like Python, MATLAB, and also you will have things such as more of Excel and more of machine learning. But you don't have to have the pre-knowledge. So you can actually come here and then gain the knowledge of how to do these things. And one thing that I might say is that it is very demanded in the market, for sure. Yeah.
You see that a lot of people are looking for analysts, people that are able to process data but also understand business. And this is what this is the problem that this degree is intended to solve. So the MSc in Entrepreneurship and Innovation. So this program allows for you to choose different direction. This type of competence can enable you to start and develop your own business. You can do that track. You can do the startup track. You can help small companies grow or scale up faster. So there are different approaches, and one of the tracks is also to be an entrepreneur within a company, somebody that drives innovation. And how can you contribute to restructuring and innovating in an existing business? So it's kind of the first year is quite general, and then you choose which track you want to do in the second semester, and then you specialize within that. The MSc in Finance, which is the program that Sarah is enrolled in, it has an applied focus. It is students developed IT and programming skills to meet the needs of an industry that is becoming increasingly technological. BI's finance department is ranked among the top 10 in Europe in terms of publishing research. And there are two tracks you can choose. You can either do asset management or corporate finance.
Yes, and if you're not sure about which direction you want to take, whether you want to take corporate finance or asset management, what you can do, you can mix them both up. So you can take classes from corporate finance and asset management. I think that that's very nice. And when it comes to the research, as I said, like we are writing our thesis, and currently I have a thesis advisor who has posted research in the Journal of Finance, which is one of the top journals in finance, already 3 times. So I think that it's very important when you have like a professor that you can look really up to. Yeah.
Then you have the MSc in Leadership and Organizational Psychology. The focus of this, how to leverage your employees how to view them as a capital, human capital, and how to leverage that. How can you create winning teams? You'll be able to identify necessary changes to meeting organizational goals and ambitions. I think that when a lot of people see this program, they think that, well, am I supposed to work in HR? Not necessarily. We do see that a lot of students that attend this program, they go into consultancy.
Yeah.
And then you have the MSc in Strategic Marketing Management. You know, how to build a strong brand in the goods and service markets and the financial consequences of marketing investments. By taking a master degree in strategic marketing management, you will be able to further develop your ability to understand what makes winners and losers in the market. Courses you would typically have are brand management, understanding the consumer, and strategic management. And a lot of people also think that, well, marketing, that can be quite soft, but we have a quite quantitative approach to marketing. So you do have some programming in this program as well, and some analytics. So it's a lot of focus on methodology.
Yeah, and in this one you would actually use SPSS, which is a statistical package. So all of my friends that are studying this, they say it's not only about the marketing, it's not only about knowing people, but it's also about knowing the numbers, because they have numbers-oriented marketing approach. Yeah,
a lot of methodology. The program, we also have a program together with BI Lewis. So it's similar the first year. The cohort starts at BI. There's some courses that are different, but it's similar in the first year with the strategic marketing management. So you start at BI, and then in the second year, the cohort moves to Rome and attend Lewis Business School. Rome in Italy. So it's a great opportunity to be able to combine going to two schools that are strong in marketing and studying in the north of Europe and then in the south of Europe, which have quite difficult approaches.
Yeah. And I think that you can leverage this very well on a CV, because everyone wants a person who has some kind of diverse international experience, and seeing that you were able to get the best of Norway and then get the best of Italy would work very well.
And then the final program, which is the MSc in Quantitative Finance. I think this is the most quantitative degree that we offer. It is typically tailored towards people who have an engineering background or a mathematics or like a typical STEM, science and technology type of background, because it is very quantitative and it requires programming skills at a high level.
Yeah, and here, so this is similar to finance, but for instance, when we take mathematics course, they're taking already stochastic calculus, because they're already expected to know the level of math that we are yet to learn. So, but it is a great opportunity, and it is a mixture between business analytics, finance, and then it has like its own charm as well.
There's a lot of focus on the programming skills in addition to finance. So the possibilities when you study. So for all the master programs, there will be opportunities for exchange and opportunity for internships, except for quantitative finance. They don't have internships or exchange. But all the other programs, you can choose from many partner schools. We also have summer school. And there is a focus on the student societies if you want to get involved. Sarah will talk a little bit more about that later. We have the Master Merit Society for high achieving students. We have employees that are dedicated to guiding you when it comes to preparing for interviews and CVs, basically preparing you for the job market and guiding you. And we have study guidance.
Yes. Okay, so now we're moving on to the interesting part, to the student life. And honestly, it is great. I really, really like it. It's already the 1 year that I have been here. So when you come, before you come, there are possibilities for preparatory courses where if you don't know some of the subjects very well, then you can refresh your knowledge, or you can deepen your knowledge. So we have this one orientation week where you get to know, you have a buddy from the master who is a second year student. So for instance, this year I was a master buddy for some of the MSc Finance students. So usually what happens, we take you around the city, we take you around the BI facilities, because if you haven't opened up our Instagram, you have to open up the BI Instagram and Life at BI, because the facilities, BI building is simply amazing. It's so modern, it's so good. Yeah. And then the second thing that I really like about our university that really stands out from the other university is the focus on career. So we have these weeks where we have career fairs, where usually there are companies that come to our campus. They have their own stands, so you can go and you can mingle with them. So this, as a student, for you, it's a networking opportunity. These are the people who will end up employing you afterwards, or who will take you in for a part-time internship, full-time internship, etc. And it's in general a very good, when you live in Norway, you really want these stands because they have canvas bags, they have water bottles, or anything for free. And as a student, you love that. Then you have the Binner, which is a great name. It's BI dinner, hence you have Binner. And these are organized on the last Wednesday every month. And you have free dinner. So you go, you mingle with other students, you get to know people. And it's a great networking possibility, but not in terms of job, in terms of your own outside of school happiness. Then we have a lot of company presentations, and even during classes, like for instance, I had last year ethics and sustainability in finance course, and then in this course you have quite a lot of guest speakers who work in local companies here, and then they come to your lecture and they give some kind of presentation. And that's also a great way of learning more about the program and learning about what you want to do further. Then we have the BI International Case Competition, and this is also a very huge event, and it's very important, especially if you want to go into consulting, because like if you want to go into consulting, then you would have to be very good at case interviews. Then we have plenty of student associations. So we have the serious ones. You have some that are investing money into stocks. And then you have some others that are more sports related, like football, you have volleyball, you have baking as well.
Yeah, you have lacrosse, you have sailing.
Yeah.
So there are many different.
Yeah, many different ones. And then we have the Dean's List, which is basically for an event that is organized for A students. So all of those who have a GPA of 8, then they attend this, they have the Dean's List and they go to the Master Merit Society. And we have plenty of more, but these are kind of the ones that pique the interest the most. Then we move on to the, if I'm assuming that all of you are interested into the BI graduate job market survey for 2020. So here we can see that 85% of all of our international master students secured work within 6 months of graduating, which is quite impressive. 72% secured, 72% of the people, they chose to work in Norway. So I think that that's great, because a lot of the students are asking me as an international student how it is to work in Norway and whether there are possibilities for us internationals. They are. And a lot of us choose to stay. 84% of the employed international graduates would recommend BI, and 80% were satisfied with the job they secured. So I think that these are pretty impressive numbers considering the overall situation in which we are right now. Then we move on to the International Alumni Network.
Yeah. So after you finish your degree at BI, you will become a part of our alumni network. It's about, getting people that are BI graduates together and connecting them. So we have a huge international alumni network, and we do organize different events around the world every year. So it's about, giving back to students after they have studied here and connecting them. So we care a lot about that as well. I will now talk a little bit about the practical information, both me and Sarah, about, the costs and the admission process and the housing. So the cost of living in Norway. The Norwegian government stipulates that you approximately need 11,000 Norwegian kroners, and you will see the calculations for how much that roughly is in US dollars and euros. And this should cover all your living expenses per month, both food and housing and such. And as Sarah was saying earlier, we do provide housing, which is more reasonable than being on the open market, and the quality, the level is quite good.
Yeah.
Study permit, which is the visa to be in Norway as a student, it's quite easy and intuitive, and we do provide you with the documentation that you need. And students who have a study permit, they are allowed to work in Norway up to 20 hours per week. Students that are from within the EU can work as much as they want. There is no limitation. But of course, it's not feasible to work too much when you're a Master of Science student because it is quite demanding. But most students in Norway do have a part-time job when they...
Yeah, that's true. But I think that most of us work approximately 20 hours, even the ones who are coming from EU.
Yeah. And the academic year, it starts... we only start once a year, and it starts always in August. The semester runs until December with exams finished before Christmas holiday, and then we start again in the beginning of January, and then we finish exams in June.
Yeah. And now to the housing, as we said multiple times, we do provide guaranteed housing for international students. And there are plenty of options in Oslo. There are a lot of student villages, as we call them over here, and which are great meeting points for a lot of students, because you have, in some of the student housings, you have people who study in another university. It won't be just from BI, so you can mingle around with a lot of people. And I don't know how it is in the place where you're coming from, but when I was living in a housing before I came to Norway, I was living on bunk beds with other people. But here in Norway, Norwegians value their privacy, so you would never actually end up in a room with like 3 other people. You have your designated room. You can share a kitchen and you can share a bathroom, but you will have your own room that can be locked, and you can have your private time. Yeah. So I think that that's kind of an important point for the housing. And obviously everything looks modern, all the facilities are nice. And then I see that several questions are aimed for the tuition. The tuition fee for our master programs are 105,000 Norwegian kroners. Approximately. Yeah, and you can see how much that is in euros and in American dollars. And then those are for all of the master programs, with the exception of MSc Business Analytics, that costs a bit more. It's around 111,240 Norwegian kroners. And the only reason why MSc Business Analytics is more expensive is because they have a lot of software that BI has to pay for. So that's why it has a bit of a higher cost. Not a lot, but still a bit, yeah. And you should note that the exchange rates are from September this year, so they can vary. Yeah. And then we move on. Like, I think that I saw a question about scholarships as well. We do offer a generous scholarship program. We have several types of scholarships. The biggest one is the BI Presidential scholarships, that all of the scholarships are awarded to students that have outstanding academic performance and they have done something in their extracurricular life. There is Master of Science International Scholarship, a Wilhelmsen Foundation Scholarship, and there are many others that you can actually go and check out on our website. But you should note, so they do cover, like the BI Presidential one, covers 100% of the tuition fee, and plus gives you stipend that covers your housing, and you have some money on top of that with that one. And then the A. Wilhelmsen covers the tuition and then gives you some stipend. And the Master of Science covers the tuition, and then depending on the case-by-case basis, it would depend with how it will end up with the stipends.
Yeah, and Sarah is currently on the Wilhelmsen Foundation Scholarship.
Yeah, so it does enable me to fully not worry about the tuition fee, and then it covers like 75-80% from my housing, and then the rest of it is part-time job.
And do note that the scholarship programs, they are quite competitive. It's a competitive, although it's a generous scholarship program, it's quite competitive, and it's merit-based. So it's based on the results from your bachelor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the application deadline is March 1st, and that's
Yeah.
the definite
And
deadline.
if you do apply, you have to specify which scholarships you're aiming for, just so you would make the recruitment life a bit easier.
Yeah.
But they are quite competitive, so you should expect to be like an A student from before in order to be able to be granted the scholarship. And then we move on to the admission requirements.
Yeah, so you need to have completed a bachelor degree, which is equivalent to 180 CTS, a minimum of 3 years. Each program has its own program-specific admission requirements. I'm not going to go into that. You need to check out the website to see what is required. We require, as a minimum requirement, a GPA equivalent to 3.5 on the ECTS scale. A GMAT of 600 and a GRE, the quantitative part 152 and the verbal 158. We do an overall assessment as well, and there are cases where we do grant a GMAT waivers, especially for students that are from partner universities. So do look at the requirements and what it takes to be weighed for the GMAT requirements. And the IELTS or TOEFL, so you need to submit also a language test because the programs are entirely taught in English.
Yeah, and just one clarification point, because someone might be confused. In the GPA 3.5, that's on a 5-point scale, so it's not on a 4-point scale. Because that was my question when I was applying. So I think that's good to know. And also you can have an exemption from the IELTS or the TOEFL if you have studied in English for 2 years or more.
Yes. Yeah. So if, for example, if you did your bachelor, for example, in the UK or in the US, you can apply for a waiver.
Yeah, and then in terms of the other admission documents, as Wafa said, we do look at the process holistically. So it's not only about the grades, it's also about other things like a motivational letter. So you need to really show why you want to be part of our community, a CV, financial plan, and how to fill out the financial plan. You can also find on our website. There is a template and copy of your passport. It's relatively easy. There is nothing super extraordinary. We have an application portal. You just upload all of the documents. You upload the scholarship if you have a scholarship essay as well, and then you just send in and you wait for the response. Our priority application deadline is March 1st. But then all of the students that are from outside of the EU region, they have to apply by July in order to be able to secure visa here.
Yeah, because it takes a while to process the visas. But we do recommend students that are intending to apply for the scholarship program and to apply as early as possible. And also before March 1st. The priority deadline is March 1st, but the portal opens already mid-November.
Yeah. And as I said, it's quite easy and intuitive. And unlike other universities, I don't know if we mentioned this, but BI is actually on the top 100 universities ranked in the top 100 universities in Europe and in the world. And I think that that's impressive. That's also one of the reasons why I chose. But unlike other universities who are also on that list, BI is actually free to apply. So you don't have to pay the fee that can be non-refundable.
Yeah, so because we are both. Yeah, we didn't mention that, but we are Financial Times ranked, and we're ranked quite high on the QS list as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's it. You can sorry. You can contact and follow us at info@bi.no. You can also follow us on Instagram as life@bi.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your presentation. And as we were anticipating before, it's now the question answer time. So if you do have any question, use the chat or the Q&A box. And I can see while you were presenting, a few questions came. Some of them we already answered. So one of the first question is about, do I have to submit an English test? And also they're asking if the classes are going to be online or in campus.
Okay, so you do have to submit English test, as we already said, for the IELTS and the TOEFL, unless you actually studied for 2 years in English. But in terms of the classes, obviously we cannot predict the COVID-19, unfortunately. But currently, right now, what's happening is that some of the classes are online, and some of the other classes are hybrid classes. So our classes are divided into cohorts. So the first week, one cohort goes to the classes, and the other ones are watching it online. And then we switch from week to week. And obviously, this can change because, as I said, we cannot predict what will happen with COVID-19. But there are possibilities for digital streaming and everything. And I mean, we are aiming to go at school if there is a possibility. But if there is not, then we are equipped fully for digital solutions. Yeah.
I think we need to address the situation the way it is right now. And in Norway, the Norwegian society is relatively open. BI is open. I think that we started going back to normal in the end of May, beginning of June. It has always been the aim for BI to try to open and have as much in classroom teaching as possible, because that's what the students want as well. We want to create the community, on campus community, and interact with the students. It is a part of the assessment as well, the interaction with the students, the class participation. So the aim is to try to teach as much on campus as possible, and we are taking a lot of precaution, a lot of measurements to try to keep open for as long as possible.
Perfect, thank you. Jonathan is actually asking us, so a bit more into the program, what's the difference in quantitative finance and business analytics?
Yeah, so the quantitative finance is something that you would choose if you want to go and work for a hedge fund, let's say, or if you want to be an asset manager that believes that models are the ones who are better able to predict how the markets will move rather than a human being. So that would be a program for someone who does love finance, who does love financial markets and models, whereas business analytics can be just people who are data oriented, but they don't have to be so much into finance, because they can choose to be data analyst in an energy company. They don't have to be strictly into the financial sector. So I would say that business analytics is a bit more broad. You can go in everything that is data oriented, whereas quantitative finance would be a bit more into finance. Yeah,
that's a very good way of putting it.
Thank you, Sarah. Lamia is asking us, talking about the deadline. So you mentioned March the 1st. So she was actually wondering if she's now ready to apply and the deadline will be March 2021. Just a bit of clarification on the date.
Yes, it will be March 2021. Our portal will open up at the middle of November this year.
Yes.
And then, so it would be the March next year, 2021.
I'm sorry if we wrote the wrong thing in the presentation. It's of course 2021.
Yes.
And it's always the same dates. We always open the portal mid-November, and the priority deadline is March 1st. It's the same dates every year.
Yeah.
Perfect. So thinking about the application, is there any suggestion that you want to give to whoever is listening? Like, what's the best to prepare for the application?
I don't know. I would say that it's very important to show that you have a big interest to study at BI. I think that what everyone would want to see is a motivational letter that really stands out. Obviously, very good grades, CV that has been thought through. So you have to make sure that the motivational letter is usually like 1 page. I would advise maybe having just like a 1 line with your name on top of it, because it a bit stands out from the rest of them if you just like write it as a chunk of text. Then without grammar mistakes. So I think that that's also very important. And for the ones who will have to take the GMAT, I would say that this is one of the things that you need to start thinking early on, because it is a bit more of a demanding test. So you do need to prepare quite a bit for it. So I think that you should leave yourself some room if you want to improve the score or something. It doesn't necessarily have to mean that you will have to improve it, but just so you would feel a bit calmer. So I think that that's very important.
Yeah, it's a recommended score of 600, and I think a lot of people, if they're not used to the GMAT or don't know what it entails, some even think that it's a language test, and it's not.
Yeah.
It takes a bit of time to prepare for it and understand the logic of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a very good tip to actually look into the GMAT test.
Yeah, because you need to know English, but you also all of the top business schools are asking for GMAT test, and it's just to show that you are also very good at logical thinking and quantitative reasoning as well. Yeah.
Great, that's a good point. So there is time for you guys to get prepared, as they said, starting from November, and the deadline that will be March the 1st. We have Lydia that is asking us if it's possible to work while studying. So are those masters full-time, or you can actually work while studying?
They are full-time. So, it's you can work part-time, but they are quite demanding, and as Sarah was saying, she works about 15 hours a week.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a stretch.
Yeah. I mean, at most, what I would say you could do is 20 hours, but it is for someone that has like a very immaculate work ethic, so you wouldn't let your job affect your grades. But yeah, 15 hours, 10 hours, it is possible. The salary in Norway, at least, is quite good. So I think that even if most of our students either work as assistants at university or they would work in the service sector part-time. So I think that that's pretty manageable. Yeah.
Perfect. Now there is another question about the Norwegian. I think it's for Sarah, because they're asking, are you learning Norwegian? Is it necessary to learn the language?
I don't think that it's necessary, but I was always, because I did my bachelor also in a foreign country, I think that the best way to assimilate into a culture is if you start learning the language, because otherwise you cannot fully integrate, let's say, at least for your own person. It's not that you have to, but it would be useful. Here in Norway, everyone speaks English, so it's not like you have to do it, because you would never find someone who will not speak in English. Everyone is pretty open to responding in English or helping out. But I think that it would open up more doors for you. So if your goal is to stay long term, then I would suggest learning Norwegian. We do offer classes here at BI, so you can take the A1, A2, and recently I think that we launched the B level as well, that you can take at BI. So yes, I mean, my plan, I have studied a bit, I have some textbooks at home, but I haven't gone to a class. But this year, because I feel I'm in my second year, so the first one was a bit more hectic for me until I gotten used to the system. But now that I'm already used to the system, I will start studying Norwegian, at least for my plans. Yeah.
And then and from an institutional standpoint, we do recommend for students that are interested in staying in Norway and applying for jobs. As you said, it opens so many more doors.
Yeah.
It gives you many more opportunities. You don't need to be fluent in Norwegian, but as long as you kind of speak basic Norwegian.
Yeah.
Perfect. We also have a question from Juan with asking what documents should I submit. So I think we talk about the application process. But also asking if there is any accommodation offered, or like any help with the accommodation once you are admitted.
Yeah, so as long as you apply before the priority deadline. So everything is digital. Norway in general as a society is very digital. So the whole application process, it is online. You upload your documents, and then it takes a couple of weeks for us to process that. It goes quite fast, relatively.
Yeah.
And then you start receiving information from us about housing and study permits and all of that. And you need to apply. If you want to apply for our housing through BI, you need to apply before May 1st. So there's a pre-application. You register for that, and as long as you apply within May 1st, you are guaranteed housing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that the documents are quite standard. So you had the CV, the motivational letter, the transcripts, the passport.
it's quite intuitive and quite simple.
Yeah, that's it. There is no extraordinary document that you would specifically need to take for this. It's most of the documents that you already have. Yeah.
Perfect. Also another question for you, Sarah, about your programs. So someone is saying, I'm also thinking to study finance. Do you have a math background? I don't, and I'm worried it will be hard.
I don't think that you should be worried about that because, as I said, most of the programs are, I mean, as Wafa said, actually, most of our programs are pre-experienced, so you don't have to have experience in order to come into this program. I studied my bachelor in business administration, so I did have calculus, I did have econometrics and statistics and accounting. But I know people who are even coming from different kind of direction, who were more into leadership and innovation within business, and who are also studying right now finance. I don't think that it will be a problem. And then we only have one mathematics course, and the professor is so good. He takes you step by step. So, and we do have tutors on campus. So in case you get stuck for a homework assignment or something, you can always go and you can talk to people.
But I think I need to explain one thing here when it comes to you can't have any type of background and be admitted into the finance program. You need to have some quantitative subjects in your bachelor degree. It has to be somehow business related, economics, finance, or from a STEM background. So it has to be a relevant background, and you need to have, if you don't have mathematics, you can have calculus, or you can have econometrics or quantitative methods. We also look for subjects, but you need to have a good foundation because it doesn't it's not like you cannot go from law to finance, because the finance starts at a certain level. So you need to have the right background still.
But you can be within other things from you don't have to be from financial background within business in order to study finance.
You can have a quantitative management or a quantitative business background, but it has to kind of
have some courses.
Yes.
And if you don't, you can always take them online, because there is a possibility for that. If you don't have some of the courses that are required, you could potentially think in advance and take classes online as well.
Perfect. Another question is about the program that you mentioned before, with the joint program between LUIS and BI. You have to be admitted by the two institutions to be able to join?
As long as you're admitted into the first year, you are guaranteed a spot then for the to continue in the second year. So we do joint admission. So you're actually screened by both BI and LUIS in the first instance. So it's the requirements that are listed on our webpage. It's for the whole program.
Perfect. Another question is, actually, you mentioned about the alumni community. So maybe you want to share some stories of some of your alumni, just to give an idea what they are doing now and how this network helps the students.
I mean, I don't know whether I can share for a specific alumni, but what I can say is that I'm currently in the process of job hunting. And the first thing that you do, you go to the profile. Like, for instance, I want to work in DNB, which is a big bank here. So then you open up their profile on LinkedIn and you see like how many people are employed from which country and from which university. And then you see that they have like substantial amount of people that are from BI Norwegian Business School. So if, for instance, I see that if I want to work as a risk analyst, let's say, and I see that someone from BI has worked there, then I can drop them a message on LinkedIn or ask something, whether I can have some kind of help. So I think that in that sense, you get this network. You don't necessarily have to know a specific person, but it's just you carry the name of the institution, because a lot of the places would know about BI and about how we conduct our studies here. So I don't know whether that you find that helpful, but that's kind of how you can integrate within the alumni society. And then I'm sure that there is, like, I'm not still an alumni, but I'm sure that there is some kind of Facebook page where you can connect with other alumni. At least that's what I think.
Thank you so much. We have a question about whether you do offer online programs. So in case you don't, you can't travel to Norway for any reason, is there a way that you can possibly start online, or in general if you offer online programs? And also wanted to ask, in case someone applies but the application is not successful, can they try again the next year?
Yeah, well, yeah, to answer that question, yeah, the last question first. If you were not successful and something, often the reason is stated, okay, you were lacking a GMAT or your GMAT score was too low. Of course, if you retake the GMAT, of course you can reapply. Yeah. So if there is any change or any improvement that that would make you qualify, of course, you're very welcome to apply again. And the first question that was, I'm sorry.
For online programs, if you do
online programs, yeah. Sorry. So we needed to, we shifted to online program quite fast this year. As soon as the society went into lockdown, we shifted to online education, offering it using Zoom, Teams, different platforms. The exams were offered online. I guess that was the case for you as well, because the society closed down. But we're hoping to keep campus open as much as possible. Although we do offer courses online, our education is not intended to be delivered online. We want you to be in Oslo at BI, have the full student experience. We have amazing facilities, we have amazing library, and it's a nice student city to be in. So we want you to be in Norway. This is we are accommodating as much as we can online this year because we have to, but that's not how we plan to continue.
We have another question from Amrit, who's asking, how beneficial is work experience for going into business program, and how long a work experience is relevant? So I guess how many years of work experience you should have before applying?
Well, we don't actually consider that as a part of the application because it's a pre-experienced Master of Science, so we don't necessarily look at it. It's not important for us because it's not like an MBA program. In MBA programs, you normally, you discuss a lot around your work experience and apply that into the education. While here, you're in a classroom with, I would say then, relatively a younger class then, where people do use cases. I think the cases are the starting point for all of these discussions. I think it's good to have work experience, and there are absolutely a lot of students that do work before they start their masters, or they need a break between their bachelor and their masters, but it's not needed.
I don't think that it's necessarily needed at all in terms, because a lot of the students are coming straight after their bachelor studies, so technically you don't necessarily need a work experience. It could be beneficial for you later on, but not in terms of the admission into the university.
Perfect. Talking about work experience and the class, we also had a question. It was about scholarship, but also about the maximum age requirement. So is there a minimum or maximum age?
No, there's not. There are a lot of, I think like in Norway is a society as well where people do kind of, maybe they did their bachelor and masters, and then they decided that they start working, they work with that a couple of years, and then they figure out like, this is not what I thought it was going to be, this is not what I like, I want to do a new degree. It's not unusual then that people do start a new master, so you will run into those as well in the classroom. So of course the majority are probably your age.
But we have several people who are 40 years old. There is one person who is 35, 26, and then there are some that are 22, 23. So it's pretty diverse age group, I would say.
Thank you. Louise has a question in terms of the scholarship. So we mentioned is based on the merit. Is the level of English involved into this as well? Like if he's a beginner?
No, not really. We focus a lot on the GMAT and on the GPA especially.
Great. We touched base a little bit before on internship. Is there anything else that we can say, like how does it work, when they actually start their internship, and which are maybe the company that you collaborate with?
Yeah, so I can say a little bit about the practical things, and then Shara can maybe talk a little bit about her internship, because she did her internship with Equinor, which is the Fortune 500 company. It's one of the big oil companies in the world. It's Norwegian. She can talk a little bit about that. When you do the internship, it really depends on the program you're enrolled in. She is in the finance program, so she did her internship during the summer, late spring, or summer. Students that are enrolled in, for example, Master of Science in Business, they typically do their internship in the fall.
Yeah. So while I'm studying right now and I have classes, people who are enrolled into MSc Business Analytics and people who have Strategic Marketing Management, they're doing their internships right now. So it's just a difference between which program are you in.
Yeah. So the duration is 8 weeks.
Yeah.
8 weeks. It's full time.
Yeah.
In Norway, we don't have a tradition of getting paid for internships, so it's unpaid.
Yeah.
The internships are facilitated through BI.
Yeah.
The jobs are posted in our portal.
Yeah.
And then you apply directly to the employers.
Yeah. Yeah, so although not all the internships, the BI internships, the internships that are aimed for like educational purposes, those are the ones that are usually not paid. But other internships are paid, and there could be cases in which you can have both a BI internship and it being paid if you're lucky enough to find one. But yeah, I can say about my experience, it was over the summer. Things obviously changed because of COVID-19. It was supposed to be physical, then it turned out to be online, and I worked on a project that was mapping out the effects of COVID-19 on the energy industry. As you can, and I'm studying MSc in finance. Obviously, I did some things like scouting for M&A deals for Equinor and stuff like that. But there are plenty of opportunity, and the opportunities out there. And in terms of the companies, there is Orkla as well. That's a very big one, especially in marketing. So that's the company that controls everything when it comes to food in Norway. Also a huge company. Then there is like Danske Bank, DNB.
A lot of banks.
Yeah, a lot of banks, yes, that's true. And then consulting groups, firms as well. Quite a lot of them. Yeah.
Some IT as well.
Yeah.
They're specifically looking for data science, and so this it's different based on your background. But there are a lot of different opportunities.
Yes. Yeah. And I don't know how much you know about Norway, but Norway has quite a bit of an energy industry. So there are quite a bit of jobs when it comes to oil, wind projects, wind companies, solar companies. So you can also find something within the energy sector or shipping. So shipping, energy, those are like two sectors that are very, very developed in Norway. So there are a lot of job opportunities there as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we actually answered the majority of the questions that we received. Maybe do we want to share some final tips with who is listening, like maybe about your experience, or maybe remind some deadlines? I can actually see, sorry, we do have now all the questions are arriving. One is talking about a gap year. So maybe we can talk about this, like if you see that on the CV, if someone took a gap year. And then, yeah, maybe if we want to close by sharing some tips or advice.
Okay, so we'll just address the gap year first. It doesn't cause any issue, of course, no, because it's a pre-experienced master, so it's not like an MBA. We don't really look at that. We will look at your bachelor degree and your grades from your bachelor degree and your GMAT, if you choose to do a GMAT or if you have to do a GMAT. That's the most important. And when it comes from another career, because this is not an MBA program, but these are more specialized masters, even if we have the Master of Science in Business and it's a more general degree, it's still quite quantitative. So you need to have the right background. And it's also the way that education in the Nordic countries is built. You start at a very high level at your master's, so it's quite difficult to get into business without having the right background. So,
Perfect. Thanks.
So a final tip I would give for students that are thinking of applying, apply as early as possible. I would start preparing for my GMAT. The GMAT is super important. Don't underestimate how much time you have to spend on the GMAT, and apply early. It doesn't hurt to apply early. If you change your mind, you can always withdraw. There's no cost to withdrawing, but apply early because then you secure your place.
Yeah, that's the same thing that I would say as well, to think through all the documents that you need, and if you want to write a motivational letter, then start thinking about that as well. The GMAT is very important. At least for me, that was the part that took the most preparation, at least. Yeah, and then do a research on the school as well. Because it's one thing to have a webinar like that, and it's different when you're alone at home and you just start scrolling through the website and read everything. And in case you have some kind of questions, it's better to send them straight away. So we would be able to help you out through the process. And you can do that by sending to info@bi.no.
And one thing to add, if you don't know which program you're most interested in, if you're thinking, well, should I do business analytics or should I do finance? We will have webinars later on with the faculty that are responsible for the different degrees. They will present the degrees more in depth and explain the curriculum more in depth. So I think that can be very useful. If you've narrowed it down and you probably have like 2 degrees you're considering, you can join those to find out more about those specific programs.
Yeah.
Perfect. Also, we will be sending an email after this webinar, so you can then get in contact with BI. As Sarah was saying, the email will be info@bi.no, and also you will receive all the link to the website, so you can browse and you can get in contact if you do require more information. And unfortunately, our time is almost over. I'd like to thank you for your time and for the presentation, and also for all the people that were connected. And we look forward to seeing you back in the next BI Norwegian webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for participating.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.